I understand that this is a hot topic. It's a topic that we all want the answers to, even though I am the one presenting on rewards and consequences in child's behavior, does not mean that I have two little angels at home that never act out. I struggle with this sometimes. My kids struggle sometimes, especially during COVID. We've all had our moments. So don't expect yourself to be perfect when it comes to managing behaviors. What I'm hoping you get from this today are just some tools to try, things to maybe put in place at home that may make things a little bit better, but just some tricks and tools to put in your tool belt. So with that being said, before I go ahead and introduce myself, I just want to let you know that I work with Child Care Answers, and we are very active on social media, so follow us on Facebook. We're on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. We also have a great YouTube channel where we record all of our webinars and then we publish those onto YouTube. So for those who weren't able to attend, they're able to still view the webinar, and you can share this with family and friends who you think would benefit from this information too, or watch it when you need a refresh, because trust me, I need them as well. We also have a great website that has a parenting tips page. So if you just visit childcareanswers.com/yourchild, there are several parenting tips on our website, including tip sheets about managing behaviors, as well as lots of other resources, including information about transitioning back to school, e-learning, potty training, yada, yada, yada. So visit childcareanswers.com/yourchild. So to introduce myself, my name is Lauren. I am the Family Support Specialist with Child Care Answers. So in that role, I help families locate childcare, especially families who have infants, toddlers, and children with special needs. And I also help families with anything developmental or behavioral with their children. So anywhere from potty training to biting, to breastfeeding support, to challenging behaviors, or anything that happens to deal with children with special needs. I can either send resources, provide a one-on-one consultation via email, Zoom, or the phone, or connect you to a resource if I am not the expert on that area of development. All of those resources are free, so I'm happy to reach out. I'm happy to connect. Just let me know. And then I also provide workshops like this. So both public workshops via Zoom, or private workshops. So if you're part of a group, a MOPS group, something like that, I can pop into your Zoom meeting and deliver some content based on your specific needs as well. I'm also a mom of two. I have a almost 3-year-old, and I can't believe I'm saying that. So 2.5-ish-year-old, she'll be 3 in October. And then I have a son who just turned 7. And he is starting school on Thursday, and he cannot wait. He is so ready to get back in the grind, and so am I. So today we're going to talk about why do they act like that. So reasons behind behaviors, trying to uncover why is our child acting out. Maybe what are some reasons that are leading to this behavior happening in the first place, why rewards work, and then understanding consequences, and understanding the difference between a punishment and a consequence. And then I'll share some systems that either I use in my house or friends use that may work best for your family. So I'll share lots of different systems, and you can kind of pick and choose, oh, that looks like something that may work for us. Or yeah, I want to do something very similar. Let me adapt something like that for our house. So when it comes to behaviors, it's important that we're looking at the golden rule. The golden rule meaning that there's always a reason behind behavior. So there is always a reason that children are acting out. There's always a reason we act the way we do. Although there are lots of different reasons, there's always a reason. So the first step in dealing with tantrums or meltdowns or defiance is really to understand what's bothering our children and where this behavior is coming from. Sometimes it's super obvious. They want a cookie and we said no, and then they're having a giant meltdown on the floor. Or really obvious, like I told you that in 10 minutes we're leaving and to go find your shoes, and you don't want to transition to going and finding your shoes and leaving and stopping what you're doing, and that's why you're having a tantrum. To something that's super not obvious. An example of this, and looking back on it, it is more obvious than I thought it was at the time, but I have been sewing masks and selling them. So I was sewing up in my sewing room, and my daughter, who's almost 3, kept coming in and turning off my sewing machine. And I was getting mad, and I was saying, please stop. You're not allowed to touch that. That's not okay. Please walk away. And she just kept doing it. And finally, I kind of switched, and I said, why do you keep turning off my sewing machine? And she says, ha, you no sew no more. And I said, why don't you want mommy to sew? And she said, because you're not playing with me. So immediately my heart was broken, and I turned off my sewing machine and I went and played with her. But the reason was, you're paying more attention to something that's not me. And young children do not like when the focus is shifted from them. And when they are around, they want the attention. We all need attention, but young children really thrive on attention. And she didn't necessarily need me to sit there and play with her. She just needed to know that I was paying attention to her. And that was really important. So that broke my heart. So I turned off my sewing machine. I told her I'll sew after she went to bed. And I went to play with her. And obviously there's times that we can't just drop everything to provide attention for our children. But it's really a balance. And she had been at school all day. And she just wanted mommy time, and that was really important, and it's something that I recognized and I validated. So there's always a reason behind behaviors. So our job is to identify those reasons. So when we successfully identify reasons or functions behind behavior, then we can reinforce an alternative acceptable behavior that can replace it. Basically shifting our focus from the negative behavior to a positive alternative behavior. So an example is if a child needs attention, we give them attention in an appropriate way because of appropriate behavior. We tend to then cement this concept that I do appropriate things to seek behavior instead of doing negative things to seek behavior. So instead of yelling and screaming at you to get your attention, I might come up to you and say, hey, mommy, when you're done, will you come play with me? And by paying attention and rewarding the, wow, I really like how you just asked me, of course I'll play with you when I'm done, and then not feeding into the negative attention, then we're teaching children to do those appropriate behaviors to seek attention instead of the negative behaviors. So some kind of concepts of behavior modification. So the 6 most common functions behind behaviors or reasons behind our children's behavior are these 6. Number 1 is to get an item or activity. So the child is trying to seek something. They're trying to get a toy, or they're trying to get to do something, to play with you, whatever it may be. I taught 2-year-olds, and so a lot of this manifested itself in a 2-year-old classroom of one 2-year-old grabbing a toy from somebody else, biting them, hitting them, whatever it may be, because in their mind, you have something I want, and I'm going to do anything in my power to get it. So it was teaching them other ways to get what you want instead of biting your friends. So this can look like a lot of different things. But really the root of that behavior is they're trying to gain something. Another root of behavior is to escape or avoid. So they're trying to get out of something. So they may try to escape a setting or an activity. If a room is very overstimulating, they may try to run out of that room, or they may try to avoid cleaning their room, or doing something that we've asked them to do. A, because they don't want to do it, or B, because it's too hard, it's too overwhelming, it's too stimulating, whatever it might be. Number 3 is to get attention, either from friends or adults. So they usually use negative attention in order to get attention. And I would say attention-seeking behavior is usually that behavior that you say, I don't know why you're acting like this. Why are you doing this? Why are you acting like this? There's always a reason. And usually when we're asking that question, it's because they're seeking attention. Communication is another function of behavior that they are trying to communicate, especially young children or children with disabilities who may have limited ability to communicate verbally, may then be using this as a tool to try to communicate. So they may be throwing a tantrum or yelling or hitting or pulling in order to communicate, hey, pay attention to me, or I need something from you, but in a way that we don't really like. They're not doing it in the most appropriate of ways. Number 5 is self-stimulation. So it's when the behavior itself is providing reinforcement. So this may look like my son running laps around the house and screaming, and I'm like, oh my God, stop, go do something. And he doesn't stop because he's getting something stimulating from that experience. So instead it's saying, I see that you're running around the house and screaming. It's not okay to do that inside. You may go do that outside. Or screaming in general. Toddlers love to just go, ah, ah. So something I have done, I'm not very consistent, I will say that. I get frustrated very easily with this, is I say, if you would like to scream, please open the door, stick your head out the door and scream. Our screams go outside, not inside. And that does help. And then number 6 is control or power. So children especially feel powerless. Their whole day is planned for them. They are told what to do. So because of this, they may push back when we tell them what to do. So when we give them a task to do or a demand, or we tell them it's time to transition onto something else, they feel out of control or powerless, and then they may act out. So it's finding ways in our day to give children control in a way that we're not handing over the keys to them. So what this looks like is what I call choices within a set of limits. So I'm giving you the control to make choices within the choices that I am okay with. So this may be, do you want to wear the princess underwear or the polka dot underwear? My goal is you're going to put underwear on. We're getting dressed for our day, but I'm allowing you the choice to wear what you want to wear. Do you want to wear the Elsa shirt, or do you want to wear the rainbow shirt? You choose what shirt you want to wear, but we're getting dressed. Do you want the blue plate or the yellow plate? I don't really care what color plate you have your dinner on. You're going to have dinner on a plate and we're going to eat it. So it's giving them a lot of choices so that they feel like their day is not powerless, and that we are still providing the structure and we're getting what we want accomplished, and then they think it's their idea. So when we're trying to identify this function of behavior or reason behind our children's behavior, we can think on like the ABA mentality, which is a therapy that is used to kind of modify behavior, not necessarily just negative behaviors, but behaviors in general. So we have to look at the antecedent. So what is coming first? The behavior itself, and then the consequence. So what is happening as a result of this behavior? So something is always happening first that's leading to this behavior. So yesterday in my house, it was, hey, Charlie, we have 1 hour until we need to go get your sister from school. I want you to set a timer, and when the timer goes off, it's time to leave. That led to a giant meltdown with, I'm not done playing. I don't want to go get her from school. I haven't had enough time to play. This huge behavioral outburst, even though I gave him an hour to transition. So the antecedent was, hey, I'm stopping you from doing what you're doing and telling you that a transition is coming. Transitions are stressful for him. So that led to a behavioral outburst. The consequence was then how I reacted. So the consequence could have been, I don't care what you want, I'm the parent, go to your room and be quiet, which is reinforcing the tantrum. The consequences could have been me walking away and just kind of disengaging, which is not reinforcing the behavior. It's basically saying, when you're having a meltdown, I'm not engaging. The consequence could have been a legit consequence of saying, that's it, I'm done with the tantrums, you've lost TV time tonight, which is then also then reinforcing more behaviors to come and more meltdowns to come. So it's thinking about how we're responding to the behavior, which is then either discouraging or encouraging more of it later. So the way that I responded was, I know that you don't like to transition. I know you're working really hard right now playing in your room. I gave you a whole hour to transition. You can go back to playing, set your timer, and then when the timer goes off, then it will be time to leave, allowing him to still get his feelings out, followed by, I understand that you're really upset. Do you need a hug? And for him, that's the magic phrase. For my daughter, it is not. She doesn't like to be touched. So that sets her off completely. She needs to feel all her feelings. So she just needs time to get them all out on her own without talking to her or touching her. He just wants he wants to know that someone's there for him emotionally and physically to say, I know, buddy, do you need a hug? So the way that we respond may look different based on the child that we're responding to. So why do rewards work? Well, behaviors are more likely to happen when they're followed by a positive consequence like a reward. It's true for all behaviors. It's true for adults. It's true for children. So rewards really encourage positive behaviors, meaning more positive behaviors are going to occur. And when more positive behaviors are happening in a day, there's more harmony in the household, and then we're seeing less negative behaviors. So rewards encourage our child's positive behaviors, and it also increases their self-esteem. They feel better about themselves. When a child's constantly getting in trouble, they start to develop this concept that I'm useless, I'm worthless, I can't do anything right, which then creates this mentality that if I can't do anything right, why am I trying to do anything right? Why don't I just continue to act this way? Which actually makes behavior worse. So children want to feel like they're worthwhile, increases their self-esteem, and it makes them feel like, yeah, I am a good person. People want to be around me. I am nice. I can do positive things. I can be successful. And it improves the parent relationship with the child, because if our children are having more positive behaviors, then we're having much more positive experiences with their children instead of a lot of negative experiences. So let's talk about some systems or putting a system into place. So this picture is an example of a reward system. It's a ticketing system. And when a child exhibits positive behaviors, they get a ticket. And then that ticket earns them some sort of reward at the end. Negative behaviors, they lose a ticket. Very simple mentality. So I think it's important as we're talking about rewards to understand what a reward really is. A reward is not a bribe, and it shouldn't be looked at that way. It's something our children earn for correctly doing what we ask them to do. We get rewarded at work when we are asked to do things and we do them. We might get a good job, high five, I noticed that you did X, Y, and Z. That is a reward. For a child, it may need to be something more tangible, something they can hold on to, or it may just need to be a high five or a recognition. It really just depends on the child. But it's not a bribe. It's really just rewarding them for doing what they have been asked to do. So this can look like stickers, small toys, treats like M&Ms, privileges like screen time or choosing what's for dinner, or earning points towards a special reward or an outing. Those social rewards could look like affection and praise, attention, going somewhere and doing something together, or just spending time together. So when I'm less frustrated by you because you've been doing what I've asked you to do, I want to spend more time with you. So it may be like an extra book at bed or extra cuddles at bedtime, or we'll play together, or whatever it may be. It's encouraging positive behavior through togetherness. So rewards can be any of them, and it can be a combination. So what I think is beneficial is letting your children have a say. So giving them some choices to say, like, here is what we're going to start doing. We're going to start rewarding your positive behavior. What kinds of things would you like to get rewarded with, or how would you like to be rewarded? And for the younger the child, they may need some choices. You can get an M&M every time I see X, Y, and Z. You can get a sticker. You can get 5 minutes of extra cuddles, whatever it may be, kind of letting them choose their system. The older the child, the more engaged they're going to be in choosing the system. So at our house, we use a stick system that we call kindness sticks. And so when I catch my kids, particularly my son, we don't really do it with my daughter yet because she's still a little too young. But when I catch him doing something that I haven't asked him to do, or something that is really kind and respectful, or going through the steps of something that I have asked him to do without complaining and just doing it. Like if I say, hey, Charlie, I need you to clean your room before we leave, and he says, okay, and he does it, and I don't hear any complaining, then those are the things that earn him a kindness stick. So it could be things that I'm kind of catching him in the act, or things that he has done that I've asked him to do and there haven't been kicking and screaming and yelling and tantrums about it. So he gets to choose a kindness stick. And so for him, I sat down with him and I said, hey, this is what we're planning on doing with you. What are some things that you would like to see on the kindness stick? And so he had a say in some of the things that we wrote down. I wrote a couple of things down. And when he chooses sticks, he's way more excited about the ones that he selected than the ones that I wrote that I thought he would like. Like one of the things I wrote is going on an ice cream date with mom or dad. He really could care less about that stick. The sticks that mean a lot to him are extra cuddles at bedtime, sleeping in mom's bed, which means he starts in my bed, and then when I go to bed, I move him. Or things like extra screen time and extra video before bed, and then choosing dinner. He likes to have that control of choosing dinner, and sometimes what he chooses is ridiculous, but he won that reward, so that's what we're gonna have for dinner tonight. So here are some kind of ideas of things that you can put on a reward menu or give as options. So things like staying up late, and we have that on a kindness stick, and it is staying up 5 minutes late. It's not a lot, but he feels like he's earning something awesome. Choosing dinner, extra screen time, an extra book at bed, an ice cream date, sleeping in my bed, like I already mentioned, things like going out on a date or going on outings, money, coins, even things like you can have hot chocolate for breakfast, or you get to choose the movie for Friday night movie night, or a role reversal, which you might do as like this big reward that a child is earning, is role reversal for the day, that you get to be mom or you get to be dad today and you get to be in charge. My niece wasn't very motivated by a lot of things. She would get in trouble and she didn't care. And once my sister kind of learned what motivated her, she switched to then being able to earn art supplies, art time, and that was a huge motivator for her. So she found that art was her thing. And when she could reward her with art, and then also take it away as a consequence, it was something that really kind of motivated her to do better. So when we're thinking about implementing rewards and implementing consequences, it's important that we're being very specific with our children about our desired outcomes and our expectations. So we want to kind of create this situation where there's no ambiguity. There's no like, I'm not really sure what's expected of me. that we're being very clear with our expectations, and we're also just kind of repeating those expectations very calmly, as much as we need to do. So the expectation may be, I need you to use your walking feet, and I'm just going to continue to say, you are going to use your walking feet, or X, Y, and Z is going to happen. You're going to use your walking feet, or X, Y, and Z is going to happen. So that may be like we're out at the zoo and you keep running away, and I'm saying, you need to stay with me or we're going to go home. You're going to stay with me or we're going to go home. And maybe giving some warnings to say, like, this is your third warning to stay with me or we're going to go home. And then you have to follow through. And follow through is my problem. I have a hard time with follow through. So I completely understand, because I don't want to leave the zoo. So if you do not want to follow through with the consequence, don't offer the consequence. Like, taking away screen time in my house is more of a punishment for the adults than it is for the children. So it's something that when I say, like, I'm sorry you've acted like this, your consequence is no screen time, which really isn't a positive consequence. And it's not directly related to the behavior. So I'm wrong when I do that. I've made the mistake in not offering a consequence related to a behavior, but I've also given a consequence that I either can't follow through with or I'm not happy with as the adult. So we want to understand that consequences are not punishments. Although it may feel that way at times, and it may feel that way to us sometimes, it's just a way for our children to learn that there are natural outcomes in life. And this knowledge can then help them structure and organize their behavior later. So we can't punish children into better behavior. It does not work. Spanking children to have them behave never works. Every time I was spanked as a child, never changed my behavior. It taught me to hide my behavior. It taught me to still act out, but to not get caught. So what we really want to do is we want to change behavior so that behaviors are changed all the time. And that their positive behaviors are being shown in all settings and in all aspects of life, and not just because somebody is watching. So forget about the over-the-top punishments or ineffective rules, because it's just going to end in a power struggle and they don't work. The right consequences actually motivate our children into good behavior, and they get us to really think about problem solving, and it's all about learning. It's all about learning and thinking, this behavior didn't work for me, what could I try next time? Our children are learning something through this. So when we offer logical and natural consequences that's really related to our behavior or our child's behavior, they're learning that I have a problem and it's my responsibility to fix that, and that I made this choice to act this way or have this happen to me, and I have to live with those consequences. So an example of this is that Dad might be urging Tommy to put on his coat to go outside because it's cold. Tommy doesn't want to wear his coat, so Tommy chooses not to put his coat on. The natural result is that Tommy is cold. And Tommy's not getting sick because he's cold. Nothing bad is happening to Tommy other than the fact that Tommy recognizes that maybe next time I should put my coat on when my dad tells me to. That is a natural and logical consequence. It's the responsibility of Tommy to decide to wear his coat or not. The adult sets the expectation, and then Tommy gets to make a choice. That consequence is then not administered by the parent. The parent didn't send him outside without his coat on. He didn't say, like, oh, it's fine, you can go outside without your coat on. The consequence was administered by the child. The natural thing happened. He was cold. Another example is that Sandy rides her bike into the street after she was told not to. The logical consequence for Sandy is then Sandy has her bike taken away for the rest of the morning, because if you can't use something appropriately, then you're not going to use it. So Sandy knew that she needed to stay in the driveway. She went into the street and she had a consequence because of her choices. They are not harmful to the children. They are really just a direct result of a child's actions. So yeah, it could have been her mom responding with, "You're never riding your bike again because I can't trust you," or "Because you rode in the street, you can't watch TV tonight." Those consequences aren't tied to the behavior, and they're not realistic or expected. The consequence is really, you rode into the street and now your bike is gone for the rest of the morning. It's tied to the behavior, and it's something that can be followed through and implemented. So when we offer logical consequences, we're acknowledging that we have mutual rights and mutual respect with our children. We're also relating these consequences directly to the behavior, and they should be a direct result of the behavior. They're non-judgmental. Tommy's dad didn't say, "I told you you shouldn't go outside with the coat on, and knew you'd be cold." We're removing that judgment and saying, "I wonder what you might do differently next time," so that Tommy is owning it and saying, "Maybe I'll put my coat on next time." And it gives children a choice. It basically tells them, this isn't my problem. You're the one who made the choice, and what are you going to do differently? You're the one who has to now live with the consequences. So here is kind of an example of the difference between consequences and punishments. So a behavior like back talking or disrespect, which has run rampant in my house during COVID, and I've had to kind of take a step back and backpedal about our approach. Maybe the old school mentality of a punishment, and this certainly happened to me as a child, was that my mouth was washed out with soap. I learned nothing from that other than that soap tastes disgusting. It was a price I was willing to pay. The consequence, instead of a punishment, is that the child loses privileges until the attitude improves. You're not going to be able to do X, Y, and Z until you're more respectful. It forces the child to change their behavior on their own in order to then be able to do something that they want to do. If they're damaging property, a punishment may be that they're spanked or grounded. A consequence instead is that they have to do extra chores to pay for the damage. You broke something and now you're going to pay to fix it. And it takes longer, right? It might take longer than just spanking them, but they're actually learning that it's not okay to break things because there's an actual consequence and not just a spanking. The behavior may be lying. The punishment could be sitting in the corner with their face in the wall. Instead, a consequence is they must earn trust back by demonstrating honesty. You've lost trust with me because you were lying. Now you're going to have to earn that back before I can trust you. This works really well with older children and teenagers. Misbehavior at the dinner table. This happened in my house the other night. The behavior may have led to a punishment of no TV. You haven't sat still at dinner, or you haven't done X, Y, and Z at dinner, so no TV tonight. Instead, a consequence is, if you can't sit still or if you can't do X, Y, and Z, then you're going to just leave the dinner table. So kind of that removal from the social interaction is the consequence. And then the behavior of not finishing chores. A punishment would be going to bed early. A consequence instead is, I'd be glad to give you a ride as soon as you complete your chores. I'll help you. I'll do anything you need me to do after you do what I've asked you to do. And consequences really do work. So like I mentioned before, when we're giving consequences, we want to make sure that we're following through, that we're actually implementing them and staying with it, that we're making these task-oriented, and that they have a time stamp on them. So it's time specific. So it's when you start being respectful, may not have like in an hour you can do this, but it's time specific. When your behavior changes, then you will do X, Y, and Z. So a lot of first then statements. First you do this, then you get this. And then they should be again related to the original behavior. When it comes to consequences, we don't want to cancel special events or outings, take away privileges you can't commit to sticking with. And you want to make sure that you're choosing a time frame that works best for the child, for you, and the situation. And that consequences will look differently for every child, as they should, because every child is different. So when we provide a lot of positive consequences, like offering kindness sticks or rewarding children with trust, I see that you have been really good on your bike, so I'm going to let you go down the street now when you ride instead of just staying in the driveway. Or I trust you to go play outside in the backyard for a couple of minutes while I do the dishes. Then we're showing them that you've had great behavior and I'm rewarding that great behavior, which is then encouraging more great behavior from happening or to happen. So things that we can consider using are things like behavior charts or sticks or jars, etc. So there is a guidance and discipline mentality called 1, 2, 3 magic. So essentially, when a child is misbehaving, you might say you're at a 1, and a 1 means a warning. Number 2 is you need to stop and change your behavior. And number 3 is the consequence. Okay, you've done this, now this happens. So the picture on the left is very similar to that mentality, but a visual, which children need visuals. It really helps them. So it kind of tracks them. Okay, you're doing a great job. Oh, you're starting to back talk. We're at an oops. I'm recognizing that you're back talking. And then we continue to kind of move down once our behavior changes or move back up as behavior changes. Another thing is a button jar. So you earn buttons when you do the right thing and you have buttons removed when you do the wrong thing. And then at the end, the buttons turn into cash or a good old sticker chart. And every child is going to struggle with something. It's part of being a child and learning. So if our struggle is getting ready for school in the morning and finding our shoes, and you find your shoes without me asking 5 days in a row, then you get X, Y, and Z. So that is kind of the use of a sticker chart. When we're giving consequences, and it's important to be very businesslike. So we're not arguing with them. We're not being too soft. We're not yelling. We're strictly saying, you rode in the street and you knew that that was not okay. The consequence is that your bike is gone for the rest of the morning. And they may argue and yell and kick and scream. And we just continue to be very businesslike in our response. I know that that makes you very upset, but you made the choice to ride in the street. And so the consequence is that you have lost your bike for the rest of the morning. And we just continue to repeat ourselves and be very businesslike. And when we are offering consequences, sometimes power struggles happen because of that. So either they withhold compliance or they argue and push back, hoping that we're going to change our mind, right? If I yell and kick and scream, you're going to say, oh, never mind, you can have your bike back. And it usually backfires, but then they're getting attention from you, which is then fueling this need to argue and complain with you. And you might think, I don't know why you keep yelling and arguing and fighting back, because now you have more consequences. And if you had just said, okay, fine, I guess I don't have my bike because I made a mistake. In our house, we call it owning it, fixing it, and making it right. You own your mistake, you fix your mistake, and then you suffer the consequence, you make it right. And I always tell Charlie, I say, if you just own it, your consequences are much less severe than if you continue to fight and kick and scream, because we tend to get into power struggles or power fights, which is not the right thing. And I recognize it, and I try my hardest, but again, we're not all perfect here. You guys are not perfect, and I am not perfect when it comes to parenting. So just remember that this is about our child's behavior and not about them as a person. And when it comes to parenting and instilling consequences and managing behaviors, in the adult, they kind of add up, they build, right? You haven't been listening to me all morning. For the child, theirs are very behavior specific. This one time I didn't listen. I don't remember the other 10 times I wasn't listening to you today. It's this one instance that then you're exploding at me on. And so then I'm being inconsistent because I didn't respond to you like that earlier. I'm responding to you now. So why don't you respond to me like that every single time I'm not listening? Which then can create these power struggles. So remember, it's about our child's behavior. That's why we're setting consequences in the first place. We need to be consistent and we need to be very matter of fact, and don't jump into a fight with the child because it's just fueling this need for negative attention. just very matter of fact. And if you need to walk away, walk away. Take it one day at a time, and we all make mistakes. Mistakes are going to happen when we parent, when we're trying to change behavior. We all want what's best for our kids. We're all approaching behavior management in a way that we just want you to be a successful adult and not go to prison. We just really want you to do the right thing. And chances are, if you love your child, if you're showing them kindness and respect, your child's going to turn out just fine. We all make mistakes. We do, kids do. We've got this. We're all in this together. If you need someone to talk to or vent to, call your friends, call me. I'd be happy to listen, and I'll share my stories with you as well. Child Care Answers covers Hamilton, Hendricks, and Marion County. So I am accessible to you if you live in one of those 3 counties. But if you don't, there are plenty of people out there to support you. So there is an agency that covers every county in the state. There are 5 resource and referral agencies throughout the state. We all do the same work, and we all talk to each other. So if I am not your family engagement or family support specialist, there is one in your county. I'd be happy to connect you, or you can use this map in order to find your local resource and referral agency. Like I mentioned, my name is Lauren. I do family support. My email is up on the screen. It's just laureng@childcareanswers.com. Chrissy is our family engagement specialist. Her focus is really on mental health, kindergarten transition, and then connecting families to social services and resources. And then Benito does all of that, but with families who speak Spanish. So we're here to help. Let us know. We also have a great family info form on our website where you can complete it to request a one-on-one consultation or to request childcare. So you can just go online and find that. And then if you're looking for further reading, the Child Mind Institute is a fantastic resource when it comes to behaviors and brain development. So they have several articles specific to behavior. They have some articles on the power of positive attention. So reading up a little bit more about giving your child positive attention versus negative, how to help a child who may be having a tantrum, helping kids calm down when they're upset, discipline specific to toddlers, because this system of rewards and consequences is really meant for children 3 and older. Young toddlers can't really make that connection. Really what works best for them is just a natural consequence, and that's it. You throw the blocks, we're done with the blocks, and then I'm helping you transition onto something else. We're gonna go play with something together. They also have resources on transitions because that can be very challenging for some children, even for some adults. And then they have resources and articles about sibling relationships and helping siblings get along.
I have a 15-month-old grandson that I watch every day, and I'm wondering, are there resources or is there another program like this for younger children, another seminar or workshop for younger children?
Yes, I can connect with you one-on-one to talk specifically about 15-month-olds. I was an infant toddler specialist for 10 years, so the little ones are 100% my area of expertise. When it comes to the little ones, rewards don't really work very well. It works for like potty training and things like that, but it doesn't really work for like if you don't touch the stove, you get an M&M, because little kids are super impulsive. So it's really about creating an environment that is a yes environment instead of a no environment, meaning that I'm removing as many no's out of the environment as I can. So if I don't want them playing with the remote, I'm going to remove the remote from view. If I don't want them getting in a cabinet, I'm going to lock the cabinet, so that we're getting as many opportunities for them to explore freely, and then replacing behavior. So I see that you're climbing on the toy shelf. That's not safe. You're telling me you need to climb. So let's go find somewhere it's safe to climb on. So it's kind of moving them from an unsafe situation to a safe situation, but fulfilling the need that they need in that moment.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's kind of that with toddlers, and just continually to state what you want them to do and not what you don't want them to do. So instead of saying no hitting, no hitting, no hitting, all they're hearing is hit, 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 hit. It's using language like gentle hands, ouch, that hurts me, and kind of being a little dramatic with it. Or walking feet instead of no running, or feet on the floor instead of no climbing.
Okay.
So, yeah, hopefully that helps, but we can connect one-on-one and talk more specific as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any help for a grandparent who's transitioning to becoming at-home teacher for virtual kindergarten? Good luck. No, really, I think it's creating a great schedule and routine. So it's transitioning that mindset to say, well, we are in kindergarten now, and this isn't a free-for-all. We have to have some structure and routines. So visual schedules, breaking up the day from sitting to doing things that are a little bit more hands-on, and then creating rewards, especially for kindergartners and virtual learning, like, great job, you did the activity your teacher wanted you to do, here's an M&M, or let's go run outside for 10 minutes before we move to the next activity. But really creating structure and a routine and consistency are your best bet when it comes to making that transition from grandparent to teacher. And then making sure that when we're not teaching, we're shutting off that teacher mentality and, okay, I'm done, let's go play. That's true for working parents who are working at home and homeschooling as well. Like, right now, we got to get focused. Let's look at our routine and look at our structure. What are we doing right now? What comes next? Creating some visual schedules, and then switching that off to say, we're done with that. I'm done working. You're done learning today. Let's just go play, and having those opportunities during the day. What about trouble getting into the car seat? My 19-month-old screams and fights getting into the car seat. It's very embarrassing when others hear. I try to stay calm, but it doesn't help. Yes, I have responded with being calm. I've responded with yelling and screaming. I've responded with trying to like manhandle you into the car seat. It's all crazy. We've all been there. Nobody's judging you. If they're judging you, they've never had a 19-month-old. So I think it's really important to distract when you're putting them in the car seat, and also explain, like, this is where you have to sit and this is safe, and you have your seat and mommy has her seat. Everybody has their own seat. I like to sing songs. I like to divert attention. I like to do things that are shifting the focus away from getting in the car seat and onto something else, like playing peekaboo, or singing a song together, or doing a finger play, or giving them something to hold, or making them part of the process. Like, you sit and I'll buckle your straps, and then you buckle this strap, or you put this arm in and I'll buckle this arm in, so that they're a part of the process. Similar to what we might do during a diaper change. If they're rolling over and tantruming during a diaper change, is that we involve them in the process. But I think every parent of a 19-month-old has gone through it. So may the force be with you. I get that it's challenging, but I just want you guys to know that you're doing the best you can. You're doing awesome. We have our good days and we have our bad days. I am not rainbows and sunshines as a parent every day. I don't expect you to be every day. But I think it's important to have those tools in our tool belt, so that I might say, you know what, I'm sick of arguing with my 7-year-old. This is not working. This is not beneficial. Let's make a switch. Let's go back to using our kindness sticks, or let's implement a sticker chart, or let's think about something else that's going to get us all the desired outcome that we want, which is peace and harmony and great behavior, because what we're doing right now isn't working. And it's okay to admit to a child, like, what I'm doing isn't working. I have told my son multiple times, like, I'm not happy when I argue with you and I know it doesn't feel good for you. I'm trying not to do that anymore. So when you argue with me, I'm going to walk away. And instead, let's do something differently instead. And so when we admit our faults, our mistakes to our children, they realize that we're not perfect either. And it builds up their self-esteem to say, like, hey, I make mistakes, so do you, and that's okay, and we're going to get through this together. And when we admit those mistakes to our children, we show them that we really do love them and care about them. So keep trucking along. I want to thank you guys all for joining me. Email me if you need anything, and take care. I'll see you guys next time.